So thank you all for coming. I'd like to introduce Dr. Kim, who is from the Department of Economics in Hanyang University, and he's over in the UK for a week. And he's going to be talking today about a study that he's been doing on the social value of care robots. So over to you, Dr. Kim. If you'd like to share your slides.
Okay, thanks so much. So, hi everyone. It's a great pleasure to have a seminar with all of you, and I really appreciate the Joe, Carla, Youngha to organize all of this. So, this is the recent publication. Work with the Dr. Bak and Dr. Yu, my cohorts in Korea, and this is one of the part of our translational research for care robots for over 2 years. So one of our output, and hopefully to share my findings and get some feedbacks and talk a lot with this. So I will share my slide. Okay, so the title is the social values of care robots. So actually, I will start to talk about the background and motivation of this study. So as you know, the many developed countries, including UK, Korea, Japan, or other countries, there are increasing demand for health and social care, particularly that is because shifts in demographic trends that can be characterized as the low fertility rates and aging population. Definitely, they need for the health aging. But in particular in Korea, there has been growing mismatch between the supply of and demand for care services. So that may stem from the increasing fiscal burdens, that is the kind of the government expenditures, increasing government expenditures, or the households, the burdens. But in particular, those mismatch is also the result of both aging care recipients and caregivers. That is most caregivers can be characterized as the over 50 and the female, and they are also aging. So caregivers also age. That makes if they got some physical burdens or emotional burdens, they may just drop from the care market. So that causes the increasing gap between the supply and demand for care services. So Korean government really wondering how to fill that gap. So that is the basic motivation of the start of the bunch of translational research program for care robots that starts in 2019. So this is basically government-funded programs led by two ministries. One is the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy, and the other is Ministry of Health and Welfare. So they aim to develop the care robot devices as well as the service programs. So Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy funded the small startups who develop the care robot devices. And the otherwise, Ministry of Health and Welfare focuses more on developing service programs that utilize such care robots. So, as you know, care robot is, we can define care robot as a kind of the robot that is created for the purpose of providing physical, cognitive, and emotional support to professionals and caregivers, as well as assisting people with difficulties in daily living. So one thing I just want to let you know is the current level of development of care robot is may far from our expectation, like the super duper robots. No, not actually. That is more similar with like the daily devices. However, the Korean government and their partners are really seeking to develop the step by step and particularly reflecting the essential needs of caregivers and care recipients. However, there are also some big worries about such development or the new emergence of the care robots. So following the kind of the expected negative impacts, like the increasing financial burdens, because that is primarily expensive at this moment. And also there can be ethical issues, and maybe the care recipients or caregivers can wonder about the physical and emotional safety. Also, the caregivers particularly wondering about its social impacts. So they are seriously wondering they may lose their jobs because the care robots will eventually replace their positions. So to ask you or to alleviate such wonders, or maybe they are correct or not, so we are not sure. So the goal and the motivation of this study is the why postulating the all members of society have the universal right to get the need and duty to share care responsibilities in a relevant manner. So given that assumption, this study aims to specify the social value of care robots are still developing, not the prevalent in the market yet, but we specify the social values of care robots will be eventually prevalent in the near future to contribute to public interest and social welfare. So by doing so, the main primary goal of this study is to suggest social norms and guidelines for their development and operations. So I will talk about the research design and method to identify social values of care robots. Actually, me and my cohorts employ a mixed method design to identify and score the social values of care robots. So qualitative research method like scoping reviews, focus group interviews, and thematic analysis are employed to identify the social values of care robots. Then quantitative research method like analytic hierarchy process have been employed to score the pre-identified social values of care robots. So I will talk about more details about that. So as I already mentioned, the qualitative methods are basically employed to identify the core values of care robots, because care robot is the very brand new things, right? Not prevalent. So we may assume, postulate lots of things. So for doing this, we start with scoping reviews. So as you know, relative to systematic reviews, this method is known as more suitable to organize a broad range of inquiries, because care robots are related in many fields. There is technology, industry, healthcare, policy, and something else. So those are the intertwined with many fields. That is why we primarily choose these scoping reviews to formulate to conceptual frameworks. In particular, we have the PCC components, so population, concept, and context, and employ those components to every school of those, and based upon the process that is the on the right side, so identifying, screening, and check the eligibility, and finally the screened publication, the number of the 72, and we identify some the key topics. After that, we had the focus group interviews. We had interviews with the 24 participants. They mainly consist of care recipients, both the disabled and elderly, and also caregivers, current care workers, and students who can work in related fields. Some students from the College of Engineering, some students from College of Nursing, some students from the College of Public Health. So we postulate those students are the new workers or the new stakeholders in the near future. So through this in-depth interviews, we gathering interviews the experiences, perceptions, opinions, emotions, and knowledge regarding care laws. So the example sentence of the actual these interviews are the showing in the table on the right side. We then through this process we finally specify the 10 values of care lovers, which can have mutually relation and which can be mutually hierarchical. So as you can see, in the level 1, the most hierarchical, we said social values, and we decompose social values into 3 sub-values in level 2. At the level 2, there are social values, innovative values, and economic values. And we decompose social values into 2 sub-values again, and that can consist of labor values and health values. And at the level 4 criteria, we identified the 10 distinct social values. 3 are included in labor values, 3 are included in health values, 2 are included in innovative values, and 2 are included in economic values. And those 10 distinct values are definitely stem from the previous qualitative research using scoping reviews and focus group interviews. And then finally, we employed quantitative method, the AHP, to give some weights on each social value. So we choose the 13 stakeholders who are policymakers, who work in the fields of the care services, also the researchers and the care recipients and caregivers. So we send the AHP interview documents and get the response. So I will briefly explain the meaning of weights. So in each local weight, the sum will be 1 because that shows the relative importance at the same hierarchy. So when you go back the previous page, so as you can see at the level 2 criteria, so at the same level, there are 3 distinct values: social, innovative, and economic values. So as you can see in the column, local weights A, the sum will be 1. And here, as you can see, the relative to innovative values and economic values, the AHP interview participants give more weights to social values. And because we decompose social values in the 2 distinct sub-values, labor values and health values, and we can realize the people give more weights on labor values rather than health values. this particularly reflects the current level of development of care levels. So the current level of development of care levels, is the functional and operational the level is not very satisfied in terms of care recipients or caregivers. However, that means they may not effectively or sufficiently like the alleviate the physical burdens or the physical improve physical conditions of physical burdens of caregivers or physical improvements of care recipients. So that is not sufficient. However, it have the significant impacts on caregivers, the working hours or something else. So this, I think that this reflects well that the current level of condition, but in the future, this score can be adjusted, right? Because that will eventually reflect the level of development. So anyway, so in the column local OAC, so each component, so because for instance, labor values can be decomposed by 3 sub-values: competent caregiving, providing essential care, and security in the workplace. The sum will be 1. And when you calculate the global wage, global wage, so A multiplied by B multiplied by C, the entire sum of the 10 social values will be 1. So as you can see, the participants give specifically the weight on the labor and health related benefits, also technology innovation, and later they less give some weight on the cost regarding the economic values, also the autonomy and needs of health values. I will give more details. And now we know the relative importance of 10 distinct social values. Then we finally give 2 alternatives. So should we promote the development of care levels or stop the development of care levels? So they also evaluate those 2 distinct alternatives. And when you multiply by global waste, we already calculate that reflects the relative importance of 10 social values of care levels. And in the column E, local scores means that is the relative determinants of such alternatives. So when you multiply by D and E and divide by the F is the lowest column, the lowest rows, and that is the calculation, and we can eventually get the length. So evaluation about the alternatives and priorities of social values of care levels. So then this is actually so far I summarized our finding approaches and the conceptual frameworks my study. Then, as I mentioned, this study primarily aimed to suggest social norms and guidelines for the development and use of care robots, because those are not prevalent yet. So to examine the internal and external validity of our study, I will try to apply those conceptual frameworks and findings into translational research project that is conducted by our groups again, because I already introduced this paper is one of the parts of our the more broader research, and so we just try to apply this small finding into our more broader research. So our research group includes the researchers from the Department of Nursing, Department of Physical Therapy, Department of Economics. So we can evaluate the social values and or other empirics or findings from the multidisciplinary perspectives. So definitely our translational research project include intervention studies, mainly led by the researchers in the Department of Nursing, and the biomechanical studies, primarily led by the researchers from the Department of Physical Therapy, and also feasibility studies, mainly conducted by me and my cohorts from the Department of Econ. So we studied on 4 distinct types of care robots over almost 2 years. So those are 4 distinct robots we actually handle. So the top left corner, that is the transfer robot. So that is the robot for assisting transfer, for instance, the transfer from the bed to wheelchair, or the vice versa. And the right top corner, that is care robots for position change. So actually, who do not have the enough muscle power, so they can flip down. So that totally makes the skin troubles and more the digestion troubles or other things. So far, the people should at least every 2 hours, the caregivers switch their positions, and even over the night, right? So this bed is the tilt in different ways. So they automatically change their positions, and they prevent some kind of those troubles. And the bottom left corner, that is the care robots for feeding. So who do not have sufficient muscular power to control their utensil, then these robot arms will help to feed. Right? And the last thing is the bottom right corner, that is the care robots for the toileting. So someone usually do not have much control over their urine or others, then this machine will help to assist the toileting. So as I mentioned, we can decompose labor values in 3 sub values. One can be the competent caregiving, and second is providing essential care, and third is security in the workplace. So we evaluate these current like the opportunities or challenges at current level, and we suggest the to-be model, something should be or something would be. So for instance, competent care living refers to the value of care robot that enables caregivers to provide excellent, professional, and high level of care for complex care tasks. So as I already described, this is the very new thing, and many major caregivers actually not high-skilled professional. So our research team realized when they adapt this tool, this robot, they should be a little confused how to control. So they sometimes spend lots of time before employing this robot to care recipients. So they need to learn, they need to understand, they need to control. So maybe they are required to improve proficiency in the use of care robots. However, otherwise, they also feel there are significant improvement of support and expertise for caregivers. And this is the result of interviews. So transfer assist robot enabled me to transfer a care recipient from the wheelchair to the bed alone. Usually I did this with another people, right? So that is the actual improvement. So while considering these challenges and opportunities, we suggest such goals, aims, or guidelines, like I mentioned, because this study primarily aims to suggest norms, guidelines, or standards that will eventually prevalent use in care sectors. And okay, so in terms of the providing essential care, this is a very important part, because many caregivers are really wondering these care robots will replace their job opportunities. So this is why particularly the government or public sector should more education and training programs for them to facilitate all their skill sets. And government also want the caregivers work with care robots. They do not want replace caregivers, right? So for satisfying this condition, our research team think that we should provide relevant educational and training programs. And in terms of the security, particularly in the workplace, one of the key issues in current care services, like the physical and emotional, sometimes sexual abuse happen, and the proportion is quite significant. We also conducted some surveys over the 500 caregivers. And besides, also insurance safety, because this is a lot, and they make the mechanical or the physical problem when you use. So this is also one of the big worries in the development of care robots. So to prevent this, right? To prevent this, we need to establish the more relevant policy measures that can prevent the physical and emotional abuse with the new environment, right? So currently, just caregivers experience such abuse from the care recipients, or sometimes between caregivers. However, with robotics, maybe something changes. So we need to build more the sophisticated policy measures to address this new environment of care services. But there's also the bright part, right? So actual reduction in physical and social care burden is observed. So definitely we need to focus on improving the functionality of care robots to minimize physical burdens. Particularly, we observe the back and shoulder pain is one of the major physical burdens. So we may prioritize the robots that should be developed step by step. And I will shift my focus toward the health values that can also be decomposed of the autonomy and needs, independent living, function, health, and safety. So, yeah, this is actually very interesting. So I will talk about as is opportunity first. So these interview results show that the emergence of care robots can bring some unintended outcomes. Fortunately, those are positive in this case. So the second interviews from the parents who have the disabled child, and the robot for transfer doesn't intend that is just the kind of toy, but the little boy feel this is very funny, right? Like a toy. So unintended, but it helps her emotional, right? So this is a passive adaptation, but the kind of the positive externalities. However, maybe we may utilize such the unintended, the positive stuffs, and we address such individualized demands more actively, right? And this is very interesting findings of one of our research. And next, independent living, right? So we also, as I mentioned, we also conducted the survey over the hundreds of people, and those are key IADL. In terms of IADL, the using public transportation, doing laundry, or managing finance are really hard to control over. So those challenges maybe we can flip out as the opportunities to prioritize, right, development of robots that should reflect, right, they should reflect such functions or operations or others. Okay, then function, health, and safety, right? So as I mentioned, the current technological level of care robots still fall short of the expectation of target users. However, in terms of care receivers, no, hold on. Yeah. So in terms of care receiver, some feelings is satisfied, but particularly in terms of safety, but the functional, operational, or the improved health condition is not still satisfied. So reflecting such level of development, we may need to focus more on the prioritizing the adjustment or improving their functionality. And innovative values mainly consist of the technological and organizational innovation. So technologically, particularly the mobility and usability should be improved. However, safety is still okay. And in terms of caregivers, they significantly feel there's the significant decrease in physical care burdens. So also by reflecting such condition, we may do something, particularly to satisfy the usability and functionality of those robot devices. We should utilize the actual users, the information. But this is a kind of the trade-off with privacy. Also, Korea has the very strong regulation on utilizing such health-related information, because that is the problem of privacy. But however, after the anonymize such information, we do not build the more customized and the individualized robotic devices and programs without utilizing such information. So we should address that issues in a more comprehensive manner, I think. And in case of organizational innovation, one of the main barriers is the conflicts between stakeholders, right? Because the emergence of care robots may have some impacts on various stakeholders in different ways, right? So to reconcile the various interests of stakeholders is very, very important to make this robotics spread widely and fast. So we should worry about or reorganize and to minimize the conflicts between stakeholders by reflecting each one's the main concerns. And finally, the economic values. So that can be the more kind of the organized value in terms of like the benefit and cost. And something I just want to emphasize is, so at the current, the health benefits for care recipients are strongly required. So maybe more opportunities to increase expected benefits, also by making environment like the education and training. So without spending with spending less money, I think with less physical burdens, we can optimize the opportunities or benefits. So training program is very, very important. I want to re-emphasize this stuff again. And in terms of costs, right? So we need to diversify the funding sources because care robot is basically expensive one, right? So if we depend on all the government fund, that will not be a suitable solution. So we should consider the private-public partnership in terms of funding. So actually, I also developed some service models for the emergence of care robots. And one of the suggestions is to utilize the insurance to secure safety as well as funding. So also other solution to using the platform business. So there may be emerging opportunities, right, to secure funding, also the expanding the diversified services. So we need more the collaboration between private and public, I think. So this is the end of my presentations, and hope you enjoy my presentation, and any question, observations, or critics are welcome. So I want to share all of this video again. Okay, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Kim. That was a really interesting talk. Can you stop sharing actually so we can see the people again? So if you've got any questions, I think with the number we've got, I think you can either put up your hand or you can put it into the chat box because Carla will be monitoring the chat. So have we got any questions for Dr. Kim? Nigel.
I came to the presentation a bit later, but I would like to say thank you to
I'm really sorry, but could you say a little bit louder? Yeah.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me?
That's
now?
better. That's better. Yeah.
Sorry. I was just saying it was a very fascinating presentation, and thank you. I was quite interested in the weightings aspect of the study, because it seems to me that weightings are always very tricky because of different professional cultures and values that may come through on the one hand. And on the other hand, there's also likely to be challenges in respect of different cultures within the UK. So, for example, in Wales, where I come from, the attitude towards elderly people is rather different to England. In England, I've noticed that the English will be quite happy to send an elderly person into a home. This is something that is culturally more resisted in Wales. And I don't think it's to do with money. I think it's to do with cultural values. So my question is, how have you come to the particular weightings you have, and what were the considerations in achieving those weightings?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question, I think. Yeah, so you're totally right. So we have some strategies to address the issues. One is the selection of the participants. So because we try to make some balance, right? So make the potential groups or more broader the participants, and we reflect their like the tendencies or and we also want to make some balances, not the skewed, right, in specific fields. So like the two people from policy side, two people from the research side, like this, and each of them may have a little different views on these issues. So that is our kind of the sampling strategy of the interviews. And also, even though our research team specifies the number of ways, right? But rather than just relying too much on those ways, that is why I spend more time on employing just frameworks, and that can be reflected in real applications. That is a part of our transrational research project. So also we realize that such ways can be adjusted or can be totally changed, because they should reflect such particularly robot is the kind of the technology and those innovations and the usage utility can be shifted very dramatically. Yeah, we also realize that. So rather than just focusing more on the waste per se, we should just focus more on like the frameworks per se, I think. Yeah. Anyway, really good suggestion. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you, Nigel. Any more questions? Dr. Kim, Jihad.
Hi, thank you for your very interesting talk. Can I just ask you, because I'm a computer scientist, so I'm more interested in the robotics side of your presentation. Can I ask you, to what extent do you think your results are specific for the care industry as opposed to wider industries where robotics are being introduced to replace people?
Okay. So, but if you don't mind, could you give me a question again? So yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. So I'm interested in the aspect where your results of the social values that you found in the care industry, where people introducing robotics to help people. Do you think this is specific to that specific field, or do you think this is something that is relevant to all the industries where robotics are being introduced? So, for example, in warehousing, in manufacturing, etc.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So, as you know, the care is not just the subfields of public cares or subfields of nursing. I think the care is the kind of the joint or new, old, and the multiple dimensions. So maybe the emergence of care robots can result in some like the decrease or negative impacts on specific fields, as you can expect. But the combination or the mutual relations, the result of those combination or mutual relation can be differentiated, I think. So even each linkage, like as you mentioned, the old manufacturing or just the less skilled laborers, right? But they can transfer or they can translate into more advanced or effective with laws. I don't think for instance, the unskilled laborers may be replaced with skilled laws in 50 years. However, that is why I emphasize training, education for them is really, really important. Maybe in that case, those not is the kind of substitute. The care laws can be also like the supplement, right? Supplement with such more conventional the labors and also the industry, I think. So this is a more kind of the joint and multidiscipline field, I think. And definitely we should be careful about the negative impacts or negative externalities. However, there can also be very, very good opportunities. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, thank you. Any more questions? Young-ha.
Thank you very much. I don't know, we are in the same room, so thank you very much for this fascinating research. My question is, you use the 10 criteria and then you nicely, summarize in each criteria what is the benefit of it. But you mentioned it, you use 4 different care robots.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that 4 different robots actually has a different aspect, and then some robot is more easy to use, the other one is more usable for care rather than so each robot has a different attribute and weakness and strengths. Did you find in separately, for example, reading robots, when you look at separate robots, did you see the nice table is all different, or is this more like aggregated the finding?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, very good question. Actually, this is more generalized findings because it's a little hard to specify the differences of each care robot. And so actually those tables, weights, and our empirics is more generalized. So as you pointed out, if we can specify more details and the more secure, more interviewees and more participants, I think we can get some distinct results, right? Distinct results in each criteria. That will be fascinating, I'm sure. Yeah, but we may conduct that in the future, not this time. Okay.
Great, thank you. I've actually got a question. Were there any differences between the disciplines as well on the views of the robot? So between nursing, the physical therapy, and economics.
So that is your question, or could you?
Yeah, that's my question. Were there differences?
So basically this is the project organized by the National Rehab Center you already met Dr. Song in Korea, right? So he's the organizer of all different projects, and our project is the last one of the 8 translational research programs, and it requires to evaluate the social values of care lovers. But actually, this is also very, very new thing to all of our research group. So when we preparing the research proposals, there are lots of debates. And actually, we never worked together before making the proposal. So our PI, Dr. Hong, from the Department of Nursing, make a cold call and just collecting all the different members at all the different university. So actually, this is almost impossible, I think. How can we handle all of this? But the create a framework, and even though work in the different domains, different experiences, but as long as we can admit each one's results, then we make some we try to provide some kind of independence of each sub research, like so even though the PI need to control all over the project, but yeah, so like the intervention studies, then the physical studies and the feasibility studies are all the different. But so first of all, we need some independency of each study, but we also need to combine our each finding. So make lots of the meetings, bi-weekly, monthly, and yeah, so very time consuming, but it was the great experience actually. So, but the one thing I want to mention is the PI and particularly the professors of Department of Nursing is really seasoned. And actually, I'm just assistant. Well, my cohort, Dr. Ryu, is we are new baby, right? But they really give more kind of the expectation, and they give us the lots of independency of our study. That is still multidisciplinary research, but the independencies of each field, then we can combine them, mingle more, I think. So just based upon my experience, I think hard to generalize, but
I think
yeah.
Multidisciplinary work, I think, is quite difficult, but you're right. I guess this is being led by the professor of nursing in
That's right.
Hanyang University. So I guess it would be, around their priorities more around than the other disciplines' priorities. Young-ha.
Yeah, I just want to comment to one thing, because one of the evaluation, the comment is it's not easy to use it because carer has to learn how to use each robot. This is not surprising, but I have to say that because I know that this research has been done during COVID period. And then I know that the all instruction actually shows with video, and then watching video how to use it, and then watching video and then actually using is quite different. So if the research has been done in the normal period, probably the comment may change. But I think always initial stage of this kind of new technology needs a lot more training and education how to use it. So I hope that it can be resolved, as time goes. So Thank you very much for this, fascinating research, particularly you've done in COVID period, which is South Korea is more strict to everything is more strict. So this is my thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for really good comment. Yeah, I'm sure if we conduct employ every single the conceptual framework, the empirical strategy, but totally will be different setting. We may get to totally different results while utilizing the same conceptual framework, the same empirical strategy. I'm sure. I'm sure there are lots of limitations and there are lots of room for improvement. However, this is just the kind of the start, right? Start of trials, and we learn from errors a lot. So maybe the co-work with UK team, right? And we may have a chance to improve more and more. So I hope so also. Yeah.
Absolutely. I just think this is such an important area because, obviously we've got such a care crisis in the UK as you do in South Korea. And although we don't want robots to replace caring, we do need support for that caring. So we need to embrace, I think, this care robots in supporting carers to care for people. So I'd just like to say I'm aware of the time. Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. That was a really interesting talk. And I'm sure we'll have lots of discussions about it over the coming weeks. So thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for everybody joining as well.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.